Well, folks, here we are again. Pretty much a similar spot on the same lake. It's a couple of weeks later, and you would think that this could only make the fishing get a lot better, but actually it really doesn't, since the first fish that will move up into the shallows here to feed are usually the bigger fish. After a couple of weeks, like what we've got now, you'll tend to get some mixed fish. You'll get a lot of smaller ones in with them, so you may have to really sort them to get your limit. And you probably wonder what we're going to do today, how we're going to catch the panfish, and I really don't know. I brought a little bit of everything. The first thing I'm going to start with is actually a spinning rod. I've got something there that I call Watson's Baitfly, and it's actually tied. It's an internally weighted fly. It's tied short on a bait hook, and the trick to it, you can see we've got a spinning rod here, is you actually put a little bit of bait on it, which sounds like blasphemy, but it's really not. It allows people to fish a fly that don't have a fly rod. It gives you the attraction of a woolly worm type fly, along with a bit more retention time, so you can get the hook into the fish, which can be really a problem if you're using just a plain fly. They suck it in, spit it out. Bobber really doesn't move much, and you do a whole lot of time flailing your rod around not catching anything. So this will solve that. Now what we do is we take this bait fly, we've got a wax worm here, and we're going to take and thread the wax worm on. So it's just it doesn't really, wax worms don't wiggle a lot anyway. Thread them on kind of in the fetal position up past the barb, and that's going to keep those fish holding on a little bit. I got a 7-foot ultralight here. We can make some pretty long casts. Get it out hopefully just over the edge of this really shallow water, and I think that we're going to get some fish. Well, it looks like our first fish on the bait fly, folks, is a rock bass, and despite what a lot of people think, I've heard them called mud bass, all kinds of stuff, they actually are pretty good to eat. I'm going to put him in the box. Cast out again in the same area, using just a little cheap little snap-on float. Gives you, there's another fish of some sort, not very big I don't think. You can change your depth easily. You can take it completely off if you want. The only thing to look for in the little snap-on floats, you want to get the smallest one that you can cast, at least 30-40 feet. And they have a tendency to waterlog and sink. So try some different brands, and if you find some that float a heck of a lot longer than the others, stock up on them, because a lot of them really aren't that good. But they have a lot lighter splashdown than like an adjust-a-bubble does, although you can cast the adjust-a-bubble a mile. Let's see. And it's just out there. It's got that fly with a little bit of waxworm on it, bobbing around a little bit. The wave action on the float will jig the fly a little. And see, either... Do I have a fish? If I have a fish on that, it is the smallest fish. I do, actually. Well, there's the future of the sport, provided a bass doesn't eat it, or even a big crappie. That's a tiny one. That's what I said earlier about the fish being mixed. You might catch 2 8-inch bluegills on 2 consecutive casts, and the next 5 casts catch one just like that last one I caught. Now this one's pulling a little bit better. Might be a keeper. hard telling what it could be. It could be a bass on these. I've caught bass, small pike, bluegills, red ears. See, there's a bluegill. It's a small one. I'll let him go. And we're still on that same piece of bait. That was a problem that this fly was designed to fix. There was a fella, must have been at least 12 years ago, that he decided that, I think that bobber's getting waterlogged. He decided that he wanted a little better fly than what he had been using. He'd been getting some cheap, regular old wet flies on the standard hook and tipping them with a waxworm. And the waxworm was mostly hanging off the back of the hook. So that what would happen is the fish would come up, it would actually grab the waxworm and not the fly. And you set the hook, no fish there, and it pulls your bait off. And then you've got to rebait, cast it out, and the fish sometimes I think will actually just sit there and let you do that over and over again. They figure that you just like to feed them. But anyhow, rolling them right up on a longer shanked hook seems to take care of that. And the flies themselves, the ones he was getting, would barely last through 3 or 4 fish and they'd be coming apart. And mine don't do that. Again, that's called Watson's Baitfly, and it's been at least 12 years since I developed those. They were my wife's favorite thing to use, since waxworms aren't near as dirty as using regular worms. You don't get as much crud on your hands, and they don't bite, and they don't really squirm around and put up much of a fuss when you're putting them on the hook. Okay, this might be a keeper. Moved out into deeper water. Let's see what we got. Well, fought more. Still not a keeper though. I put on an adjust-a-bubble, and they don't land as softly, but you can cast them farther. I fired it out there a little farther. And we're getting one. Go ahead and take it now. Sometimes if they bump it and then don't take it, you move it just a couple of inches, and then we'll get their interest back. They'll come around again. I think I got a little bit bigger one here. Took a little drag. What do we got? Got a red ear. That one's should be well over 8. I'm going to put him in the box too. On Watson's Baitfly. Nice fish. Kind of goofed up my adjustment on my adjust-a-bubble. Go back down a couple of feet and you pull the end out of these, and it has a rubber tube that the line runs through. You twist it, let it go, snugged up. You notice something else? Still got the same piece of bait on there. Flip it out there. Not too far from me. It wasn't too far away where I caught that one. Oh, yeah, we got one messing with it. Hard telling what it is. There's all different species are mixed in here and all different sizes. As usually happens between about 2 weeks after the big ones move in. They'll start getting mixed, and that will last for several weeks until the fish start spawning, and then they come up shallow, usually where you can see them, and they'll segregate again by size. Well, the puzzle might be coming together. The wind died. There's a few bugs coming off. I just caught a pretty good bluegill on a nymph, my fly rod, and I'll probably make a few more casts with this, and likely we'll switch to something that fishes a little closer to the top. This one goes in the box. The others. Could be why I wasn't catching near as many on the Baitfly, because if you're fishing underneath where the fish are actually trying to feed, usually isn't very effective. Oh, well, that might be a keeper. Maybe. Seems to be coming about straight in. Yeah. Not a keeper. Okay, I put on a clink hammer style fly and immediately caught a fish on top. And it's another rock bass. A little bit smaller maybe than the other one. Probably let this guy go. There. He goes. Now the wind, of course, is going to kick up omnidirectional at 40 miles an hour. That way I won't be able to see what I'm doing. Barely, anyway. Well, that might be encouraging. As soon as about it hit the water, I caught a keeper on the Fugly bug fly rod jig. We'll see how that does. Maybe we can catch a few more. I certainly need something to work. That is precisely when you get tangled up as well. Another good one on that Fugly bug jig. Slow going today though. There's the jig. Show you something about that jig. Kinda has a nymphy looking body. It's got some CDC and stuff in it, which it looks like more in the water it'll move. But the tail is similar to the super plastic baits that are fairly new to the bass fishing industry, Z-Man super plastics and such, and it's really soft and it's really stretchy, and I think that might help to have them hold on to it a little longer. Crappies will hit flies too. This one actually was caught on an olive scud. Ow! And he caught me on a dorsal fin. Anyhow, he's probably 9.5 inches or something. I'm going to put him in the box too. Tough sledding today, but we're getting some fish in there. Mixed bag of things.